On July 1st, 2026, an Adobe emergency bulletin caught the cybersecurity community off guard, detailing the simultaneous patching of 7 critical enterprise vulnerabilities. All 7 vulnerabilities were assigned a perfect common vulnerability scoring system score of 10.0. This score represents the most severe risk level possible. An attacker requires no credentials, 0 user interaction, and can execute the exploit using only standard network access. This diagram breaks down the CVSS v3.1 vector string that results in complete remote code execution. These specific metrics for network access, low attack complexity, and unauthenticated status all max out. If the server is visible to the internet, it is vulnerable. While routine updates often address minor coding errors, discovering 7 maximum severity flaws at once suggests systemic architectural failures within the codebase itself. This crisis exposes the operational risk of maintaining legacy technical debt. By running outdated architectures, organizations grant threat actors zero-click control over their core infrastructure. The 2 platforms compromised in this bulletin, Adobe ColdFusion and Adobe Campaign Classic, maintain a massive footprint across corporate and public sectors. ColdFusion is a 30-year-old web application platform. Despite its age, it remains deeply embedded in systems of government agencies, financial institutions, and Fortune 500 companies. Campaign Classic operates as an enterprise marketing automation tool. To function, it requires direct access to sensitive customer databases, reading personally identifiable information, purchase histories, and live CRM data. Using these aged platforms as foundational infrastructure creates a high-value target. For advanced persistent threats, compromising either platform provides a high-privilege entry point directly into the core network. This matrix catalogs the 6 10.0 flaws in ColdFusion 2025 and 2023, falling into 3 categories: improper input validation, path traversal, and unrestricted file uploads. Looking at unrestricted file uploads first, attackers scan the internet to identify exposed server instances. This network topology shows the attack mechanics. A threat actor sends a crafted HTTP post request. Lacking input validation, a malicious web shell payload bypasses perimeter firewalls, landing in a predictable directory within the server's file system to be triggered immediately. This specific flaw grants the attacker an immediate reverse shell. From the outside, they gain unauthenticated command execution over the targeted server. The second major attack vector targets ColdFusion using path traversal vulnerabilities, cataloged as CVE 2026 48281 and 48282. This directory tree visualizes path traversal mechanics. Attackers input // strings, escaping the authorized web directory to enter protected system folders. The consequence is unauthorized read access to extract database credentials and source code, or write access to overwrite legitimate files with backdoors. By chaining these 10.0 traversal flaws with lower-scored privilege escalation vulnerabilities, an attacker converts temporary file access into permanent, undetected system control. Campaign Classic suffered a single 10.0 flaw in this bulletin, categorized as an incorrect authorization vulnerability. This diagram maps an incoming request hitting a vulnerable Campaign Classic server. Due to flawed logic, it completely skips the authentication checkpoint, passing straight to the secure backend. Because the application authorizes the bypass, it exposes sensitive customer SQL databases without triggering standard security tripwires. Beyond the server compromise, this bypass leads to multi-million-dollar regulatory violations and provides a trusted platform for launching large-scale phishing campaigns. This timeline outlines the projected threat progression. Security analysts predict a rapid escalation, moving from the release of proof-of-concept exploits in Week 1 to widespread ransomware weaponization by Weeks 3 and 4. Looking at this comparison table, the sheer volume of this crisis stands out against historical benchmarks. The Log4Shell crisis centered on a single 10.0 flaw. Here, network defenders are facing 7 perfect 10.0 flaws at once. State-sponsored threats and ransomware syndicates actively monitor these specific legacy systems. Because ColdFusion is rooted in public infrastructure, National security agencies are watching closely for signs of initial access operations. The ease of developing exploits is exactly why Adobe issued a Priority 1 rating, demanding a strict 72-hour patch window to secure systems before attackers finalize their tools. The immediate mandate for organizations running these systems on-premise is an upgrade to Cold Fusion Update 10 or 21 and Campaign Classic Build 9397. However, complex application dependencies often make a 72-hour emergency patch cycle difficult to execute safely in an enterprise environment. This matrix illustrates temporary mitigations if patching is delayed. Security teams must deploy specific web application firewall rules, blocking path traversal strings and file uploads. At the network level, extreme segmentation is required to isolate vulnerable servers from core backend systems, preventing lateral movement. Firewall rules are temporary measures. The definitive fix requires applying the official patches before threat actors reverse engineer the vulnerabilities. This crisis illustrates why legacy systems operating as critical infrastructure represent a massive organizational liability. Relying on architectures designed decades ago creates a persistent state of vulnerability. A perimeter firewall cannot secure a core application that lacks internal authorization checks. Building enterprise infrastructure around a single legacy vendor creates lock-in. When a critical bulletin drops, that dependency results in high-risk emergency maintenance windows and operational disruption. Integrating security by design and regular updates mitigates the systemic risk posed by legacy software dependencies. This event is a strategic warning. Organizations must address their technical debt immediately, or threat actors will eventually collect it for them.